Well, hello, that's me again. Today is the January 25th. It's Thursday. We're nearing TGIF, which is good. And what can I say? The events develop with such lightning speed that I sometimes, I'm not capable even to catch up with everything. The stream of the information is unprecedented, and the events, they are historic in nature. And let's start with the headlines type thing. As much as I hate to do the political commentaries, well, let's do the military political commentary, and we will start, of course, with the issue of the IL-76, which was shut down by the Ukrainian air defense. And the Ukrainian air defense did it deliberately. Everybody knows now what was happening in this respect, because 65 Ukrainian POWs have been transported by this plane, IL-76, six crew members, and three liaison officers who were to exchange those Ukrainian POWs for Russian POWs. That means that it not only means it's the fact, and the Ukrainian side knew this plane, they knew its pretty much flight path. So, and guess what? As it turned out, they brought some air defense complex. They knew that the IL-76 will be in the open. They knew what will be the elevation of it, and they were doing this from the north of Kharkov, which is, and Kharkov, the distance between Kharkov and Belgorod is really short. It's only 70 kilometers. Now, the village from which the salvo was made against this to shoot down this IL-76 is even closer. It's within 40-kilometer range of Belgorod proper. So, and there are two possibilities, of course, what they can, how they did it. It's purely a technical thing, and as you can see yourself, it could have been Iris-T, which is nothing more than basically slightly redesigned with the booster sidewinder and stuck on the sun platform. It has the clear range of up to 40 kilometers. Theoretically, it could have been used, but most likely it was the issue of this. And look at this. This aircraft had been shut down at 11:30 approximately. At 16:40, which means in the 4.5 hours, Russian Defense Ministry responded. And basically, reported that the Ministry of Defense for the first time reported the destruction of the French SAMP-T air defense system. Military reported the destruction of the French SAMP-PT anti-aircraft missile system in the zone of special military operation. And they made this statement, and that gives us a pretty much a good idea what happened, because obviously Russians didn't expect this. It's war crime against humanity, and it was, as always, done by the PR action, just to impress the curators of Ukraine in Washington. And that's the only thing they can do. They can do only PR actions. And what is most important here, however, is the fact that the SMPT team, gosh, you can break your tongue just trying to say it properly, carries the, good old Aster family air defense missiles. They have the range of about 100 kilometers, maybe slightly longer. So most likely these were the missiles. And again, I'm speculating here, don't quote me on that, but this is what it looks like. They were used to shoot down this IL-76, and after that, guess what? They knew what they did. because obviously the Kiev regime and supporting media, which are primarily in the West, they began to lie. They said one thing, then they changed the story to the other, and basically this is everything you need to know about the morals, or rather lack thereof, of Kiev regime and their curators. So they needed PR action, and boy did they attract attention, primarily in Western media. But as apart from human tragedy, which always is involved when people die, it's just the matter of understanding the nature of this regime in Kiev. And there you go. Here's what we have for today. But sadly, as much as this occasion is sad talking about all this, there are other events which are gigantic in its basically scale and scope, and we need to really keep an eye or focus on that, because some things out of, which are coming out right now on the news streams are just absolutely mind-boggling. And I'm not only talking about Mr. Abbott, the governor of Texas, and Texas finally basically defying the federal government because, and based on the Constitution, and they defy the Supreme Court. And this is could be the start of the very serious disintegration processes, because obviously Texas, just asserts its right as a state to protect its border. But that's just part of it. Obviously, Mr. Lavrov is on record in the last, oh gosh, he was very, very active in the last few days. And what is the number of the statements which Mr. Lavrov made are extremely important, in the sense that let's kind of review this. Here's the yesterday's statement that Moscow pours cold water on Trump promises. And here's what Mr. Lavrov talks about, that Kiev is not prepared to resolve the conflict with Moscow. And you remember that Trump saying all the time, actually he's saying right now that, oh, if I would have been the president, I would resolve this conflict, in 24 hours. And, well, yeah, that's what Trump does. He talks a lot. I mean, and make no mistake, I mean, between Democrats and Trump, obviously, any normal person would vote probably Trump. That's what I would do, because, and I don't like the guy at all. But you know what, the lesser of the two evils. But of course Trump is boastful, and it's, well, let's put it this way, it's BS. He doesn't understand evidently what he's dealing here with, and that's what Lavrov says. A promise by US presidential candidate Donald Trump to put a swift end to the conflict between Moscow and Kiev is hardly realistic, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday. Ukraine does not appear to be ready for any kind of settlement, he added. The former US president and the current Republican frontrunner has vowed on several occasions to facilitate a peace deal within days. Yeah, it's, as you understand, it's complete BS, doesn't work like this, and you know what, you cannot facilitate any kind of the peace deal, especially when Russia basically, well, it's in the finishing up pretty much with the destruction of the armed forces of Ukraine, and not only armed forces of Ukraine. As you can see yourself, Mr. Douglas Macgregor, and Douglas Macgregor, unlike me, he has a very, very good connections within the Pentagon and intelligence community, and this is he is talking about today, actually, that our friend Lindsey Graham, well, yeah, friend is being used loosely here, obviously, said that we should be so grateful no Americans have died in Ukraine. This is a lie. Well, we know it's a lie. And we know that at least 400 Americans have died within, whether they are contractors or in uniform. Our administration won't say this, and it won't be published by the media. We know that. The reason we know that, obviously, as the latest situation with the French mercenaries, many of whom probably, well, highly likely or very likely have been the uniformed cadre officers under the legend, so to speak. So Russians killed 60 of them, then they those who came to pick up bodies, they killed them too. And so now it's personal. And before that, Russians have been very restrained in terms of dealing with those NATO advisors, because they know where they are. They know where, for example, a bunch of CIA guys is in Ukraine. They know where the British are. So, but now it's personal, and especially after IL-76 and this guy Macron thinking that he is big honcho and trying to escalate. I mean, the whole premise that, for example, France can escalate something with Russia is ridiculous. It's preposterous. You cannot escalate anything when you don't have any kind of escalation capability. And the only thing they can do is, and Macron was, saying all these big words and about, this is the economically and militarily pipsqueak, remove their nuclear deterrent from France. They are nobodies, really. I mean, militarily and economically, it's a second-rate power now with some, as I already stated many times, there is Airbus, there is some pretty impressive French nuclear program, but that's about it. And when you listen to this, it's just, sure, let them escalate. What are they gonna do? And guess what? They're trying to do some stupid things, but we will come back to Mr. Lavrov. And Mr. Lavrov also, while pouring the indeed cold water over Trump's statements, which are absolutely boastful and unrealistic. And here's Lavrov saying things which many people in Washington believe is going to be true. And that at some point of time, due to sanctions, Russia will crawl back on its knees to United States. And he said, Lavrov just nonchalantly says, bilateral ties were wrecked by those who invented Russian threat. The foreign minister has said, by the way, Mr. Trump played a crucial role, which is absolutely true. Before the Biden administration, he was the most anti-Russian president of the United States. And he basically closed pretty much all major outlets of the diplomatic relations by closing all consulates in the United States of Russian Federation. I know this. Seattle was closed, San Francisco was closed, LA was closed. So, I mean, the guy, he boasted, Trump, that he's the most anti-Russian president. And he was. He was the guy because of his cowardice and because he was manipulated by the neocon cabal he brought on with his administration. He wrecked their relations. And now we have the obviously Biden administration, which is altogether, I'm not even sure what they're doing. And so that's what he says. Mr. Lavrov says absolutely clearly that Moscow bears no responsibility for U.S.-Russia relations reaching an all-time low, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said, insisting that the burden of restoring them lies solely with Washington. Very clear. I mean, you don't have to, discuss ramifications or implications of that. When Washington crawls back to Russia, then Russia will talk. And that's exactly said that in an interview with CBS News on Monday when asked about the potential for improving the relations between Moscow and Washington amid the standoff over Ukraine. Lavrov stressed that Russia would not take the initiative to repair them because it was not his country that spoiled them in the first place. There you go. When Washington will be ripe, if it will be ripe to negotiate with Moscow only on the bilateral level, Washington will not have any say in Ukraine and settlement over Ukraine. So, then they will come to Moscow, call Moscow and say, hey, you know what, we are ready to talk, and we finally we understood and realized the reality of this all, and we accepted the inevitable. Then, sure, Russians will talk, but I'm telling you, I know this for a fact, very big people from Moscow talked to my friends and American friends, and they were asking them the same question: Who can we talk to in Washington? There's nobody. There's absolutely none, and that's the whole problem. So Lavrov will not lower himself to talking to such a person as he is liar, professional liar, Mr. Blinken, and people of this nature. And what can I say? Let Washington decide when and how they want to deal with this. And that brings us to the other thing. Daniel Larison, formerly of the American Conservative, but now it's everywhere. You can go to Larry Johnson's blog. He writes about this, and he is talking about, look what he's talking about. The U.S. is asking China to help clean up the mess that Israel and the U.S. have made. And he quotes, guess who he quotes? He quotes Financial Times. The U.S. has asked China to urge Tehran to rein in Iran-backed Houthi rebels attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea, but has seen little sign of help from Beijing, according to American officials. Well, then he correctly states, Daniel Larison correctly states, they are going to exaggerate both Chinese influence over Iran and Iranian control over Houthis. The U.S. is asking for something that China couldn't deliver if it wanted to try. But then he absolutely correctly states that it is laughable that the same administration that has been obsessed with containing Chinese power thinks that the Chinese government would lift a finger to assist them on this. While it's laughable for people with the common sense and more or less developed intellect in the international relations, but it's not laughable for people in Washington. They really believe that they are so irresistible, they are so shiny, they are so, amazing that the rest of the world has to bow to them, and because they are so good. Well, of course, reality is absolutely diametrically opposite. And you cannot talk to Jake Sullivan or Anthony Blinken or anybody. Those guys are not good at anything. The only thing they can do is lie. And this is pretty much correct in the sense, for example, as many people notice, in regards to regime in Kiev. Majority of the people who run the whole thing are media people. They are there to create the picture, to create the perception management. Same goes for the U.S. administration and now basically powers that be in Washington. Most of them, again, people who have no particular life and statesmanship skills. None. Zero. They are primarily lawyers, they are primarily the PR people who know only how to elect themselves or re-elect themselves. And this is the whole situation. That's what the definition of the success now in the Western world. It is not what you achieved as the statesman. It is the only measure of success is if you got re-elected. So, you know what? If I go out and absolutely pour the, streams of BS on the, unsuspected hoi polloi, which, votes in those elections, and I got reelected, hey, that's success. Doesn't matter that I BS my way into this, because this is not the criteria of success. And it doesn't matter that, for example, you lost all your wars, because this is not a criteria of success. It is, you got promoted to some 4-star general. Oh gosh, you must be good. Well, what is your war record? Oh yeah, you lost everything. You don't know how to command a real serious, formation like Corps or let alone combined arms army. But it doesn't matter. And this is exactly what you get when you have this type of people dominating the whole system. And Russians understand that. They see it. Well, the rest of the world sees it. And when you go about, if you want to, so to speak, look at the root of the evil, and again, it has been going for decades. And make no mistake, I do not necessarily single out American education here. Any education system in the world has the problems. For example, anything with the Bologna process is a problem in itself. For example, in Russia, they finally closed this chapter. They said, you know what, we cannot take this anymore. We're going back to the Soviet system of education, which was superb, one of the best, if not the best, in the world. And now suddenly, guess what? We have the what Ivy League, and I single out this Ivy League because basically most of what they do, most of their reputation is fake. The only thing which they contributed to the world, for example Harvard, is primarily through its medical school, and obviously it's the natural sciences departments. Yeah, science, technology, things of this nature. I know, I have my friend, they're PhDs from Harvard, and they are just absolutely, shaken in shame of what is happening now in this basically humanities, whatever law and thing in Harvard. And there we go. Now we have, if that hasn't been enough, we have now the situation that they actually faked the study, the research in the cancer. This is just unprecedented. Harvard Cancer Institute moves to retract 6 studies, correct 31 others amid data manipulation claims. This is what they do. It is a pandemic now. And if you think so that you can manipulate data, which is essentially extremely advanced science of, I don't know how you call it, microbiology, DNA, and all that thing, serious biology, let's put it this way, with the applications for medicine. And by the way, Harvard does have an excellent medical school, which is true, totally deserve it. In terms of, can you imagine what you can create, or what can you write nowadays in something like political science? What kind of research you're doing there? I mean, it's all regurgitation of already pretty much well-known facts. And as a result, we have this. It's a pandemic. Now we have Harvard, we have other, Ivy League schools, most of the products of which, especially coming from those non-STEM departments, it's fraud. And these are the people who specifically constitute the ruling elite in the United States and elsewhere in the West. The only thing they can do there is indoctrinate, brainwash. But to just demonstrate to you, here we have this news, and this is just absolutely wow. We have this people from the OilPrice.com, but I mean they are republished and kind of not syndicated, but people, refer to them by Simon Watkins. Simon Watkins is a former senior FX trader, salesman, financial journalist, and best-selling author. Okay, that's fine. And he talks about 3 days ago about Russia and Iran finalized 20-year deal that will change the Middle East forever. He is correct in this respect, because obviously Russia and Iran have now a very comprehensive both military and economic, if not alliance, but very close to it. But look what they write after that. And this is when you understand how basically you cannot exist in the Western information field because it's primarily garbage. Look at this. He writes about the also military cooperation between Russia and Iran. And he says it is also opposite to note here that Iran's electronic warfare system can easily be tied into Russian Southern Joint Strategic Command, 19th Electronic Warfare Brigade, Rasvet, near Rostov-on-Don to the northwest of the Caspian. This can also be linked in with China EW capabilities. Okay, whatever. I don't think so, but whatever, that's fine. The people can, just speculate whatever they want. And then suddenly here comes this bomb. And people have to understand that what is being reported as factual is absolute insanity. Look at this. After they talk about the EW, electronic warfare capabilities for neutralizing air defenses in the region, whatever, this will be augmented with new missiles designated to be sent to Iran by Russia under the New Deal, according to the senior EU security sector source exclusively spoken to by OilPrice.com. Get this. Last week, selected Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps personnel will be trained on the latest Russia upgrades of several short and long-range missiles, the KH-47M2 Kinzhal, the Iskander-M, and the RS-26 Rubesh, the BrahMos-3, and the Avangard, before the plan to manufacture them under license in Iran begins, with the aim of being to have 30% of them stay in Iran. It's just mind-boggling. Okay, the only thing which sounds here correct, and of course nobody knows this source in the EU. Let me put it this way: there are no good security sources in the EU. They are all amateurs or BSers, you know. So, and look at this. Apart from the Kinjal, okay, you let's theoretically say that yeah, you can sell Kinjal to Iran and selling them, for example, carriers such as Su-34s, because Su-34s now can carry Kinjal. The same goes for the Tu-22 M3M. But then again, RS, well, you can even believe in Iskander, which is true. But then suddenly you go and they talk about RS-26 Rubesh. And what is RS-26 Rubesh? Now it is being classified as intercontinental ballistic missile. And before they go to BrahMos, first, Russia doesn't produce BrahMos 3. Only India produces BrahMos 3. Russia produces the father and mother of BrahMos, which is, of course, Onyx P-800 cruise anti-shipping missiles. So I don't know how India factors into this. And then, of course, can you believe it? They want also to give the Avangard hypersonic gliding vehicle, and they want to give them RS-26 Rubesh intercontinental ballistic missile. These people are sick if they think that Russia even will exercise any kind of the transfer of the most advanced strategic missile systems to Iran. Nothing against Iran. It's just that countries do not do this. Period. And what are we talking about? I'll just give you an example. I mean, Avangard to I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I have no words for the BS they, basically pour over people. For example, here's the specifications from the missile threat. They made only one mistake. And the Avangard has a range of over 6,000 kilometers, while it has about 10,000 kilometers. But the point is carried to its apogee by a ballistic missile. This carrier is currently the SS-19 Stileta UR-100 NUTH. And not RS Rubesh, which was supposed to be carrying it. But instead, Russians they have many unused but in pristine conditions of the SS-19 Stilettos. They stock two first regiments of them are already frontline service, but later will be replaced by the R-28 Sarmat. It is already replaced because it's kind of old information, and Russia has initially planned to mount the Avangard on the road mobile RS-26 Rubesh, but chose to use the silo-based RS-28 actually Sarmat after the Rubesh was delayed due to financial constraints. And look what they talk about Avangard. Of course, we know that this is the gliding vehicle. Its speed not up to Mach 20. Its speed officially acknowledged as Mach 27. It is maneuverable, and you just cannot shoot it down with anything. There are no systems in the world which can shoot it down. And then, of course, when you look at this, here's your Avangard. Here's the one of those Stiletto missiles, and this is already now from just a few months ago, 3 months ago, November 16th, 2023. Russia loads missile with nuclear-capable glide vehicle into launch silo, and this is the intercontinental ballistic missile equipped with the nuclear-capable Avangard. This is Stiletto. This is the two regiments now what Russians have in the Orenburg area, which are on the combat duty in the immediate readiness for launch. Now Sarmat will be able and this is Sarmat is basically Shaitan weapon. It's incredible missile. It's absolutely mind-boggling because it can fly around the world basically. And it will be able to carry up to 10 Avangards. So, but now this is it's unbelievable. So they claim now that Russia will be transferring these technologies to Iran. Those people, I don't know what they smoke. But this is the kind of thing which we're talking about, in which Stoffhaler was writing about the intellect. it's so out beyond their reach anymore. You cannot go and talk about the military affairs today without having serious military engineering background. And by engineering, I don't mean like the Corps of Engineers, which is very respectable and serious profession and occupation. I'm talking engineering like system integration, missile weaponry, navigation, global navigation of things of this nature, which everything related to the use of the modern weapons. But people will believe it. Believe me, many people will read this and they will believe this, that Russia gives and is ready to give Iran intercontinental ballistic missiles with avant-garde system. You have to be, absolutely high on something really, some substances which haven't been invented yet. And yet they send, press it. They, it's a fact. Let's publish it, Who is the source who came up with this BS? Who are those people? They're a bunch of amateurs or, sources which are under control of some special services who manipulate and promote BS. But here we are. And when you look at this, no wonder they live in some kind, all of those people, including inside Washington, the Beltway, let alone those lapdogs in Europe. They live in this absolutely, delusional world where this alternative reality, and they really believe that Russia should crawl back to them when Russia never have been that strong in its history. But hey, whatever. So, and if that hasn't been enough, look at this. There is a very important event which is happening right now in Russia. It's 2 days ago, and it's this is Patriarch Kirill, Russian Orthodox Church. And look what he calls upon, speaking in the State Duma and speaking to the these so-called Christmas readings in Russia. Patriarch Kirill calls on Russia to lead the fight against the Antichrist. The Patriarch explained that Antichrist will come when people will not be able to distinguish between good and evil. Do you sense what he's talking about? You not only have to recognize it, you have to sense it. He noted that the West has already reoriented itself to values hostile to Christianity. Even when speaking of the Feast of the Nativity of Christ, English-speaking believers avoid mentioning the name of Christ. So, you know what? These are huge news. They will not be obviously reported in Western media, but, and this is just the part of what is happening today. And you know what, as I already stated, I do not want to continue to produce videos which are longer than 30-35 minutes, because after that people's attention basically, it lowers itself, it dissipates, which is absolutely natural. I'm the same way, anybody is the same way pretty much. So, but I want to close it with this thing. You have this Politica. It's Politica is the rag of the liberal rag, and they talk about Europe's Trump challenge. Is it ready to fight Vladimir Putin alone? It's yesterday. And can Europe fend off Russian attack on its own? Granted that United States quits, NATO. Okay, they are idiots. Okay, Russia doesn't need Europe. Russia is not going to attack it. But look at this, just to demonstrate to you how stupid those people are. Here it is. Political, that's continuation of this article. And the first thing they begin to make analysis from, look what they start dealing with. NATO's big and not so big spenders. And they go again in the beaten to death crappy index of the gross domestic product. And the percentage of which is spent on of gross domestic product on the defense. You cannot explain those people. You cannot explain any humanities educated guy from any Ivy League that GDP is garbage and their percentages is garbage, because you cannot put this into money. You cannot express in the, in billions of dollars or billions, what have you. You just can't, because it doesn't reflect reality whatsoever. But they still do not learn. They are incapable of learning because they are brainwashed. And when you basically have the Harvard basically faking bunch of the crucial research on cancer, forget about writing those political science theses which are garbage. Well, Well, we have this. In conclusion, suddenly, in Responsible Statecraft, Mr. James Russell talks about strike warfare and American fetish and global scourge. First, strike warfare, actually, there's no such thing as strike warfare. Any warfare contains the, well, strikes. It's a military science, and there is a very clear definition what strike is. But he is talking about that, yeah, the only thing we can do is basically, standoff weapons. Yes, the only thing the United States can do militarily is bomb. That's pretty much what they know, everything about warfare. But he asked the key questions. Have we learned nothing from our follies of the last 25 years in which we proved incapable of clearly relating ends, ways, and means in making decisions on when and under what circumstances to use force? I have the answer. No, they learned absolutely nothing. And as I am on the record for years now, you cannot learn things on the military history and military science which is completely confabulated. It is all invented, most of it anyway. And there you go. And he asks this question, and the answer is clear. And when you look at what the situation is happening around, and when you look at the people who run this country, to the fact that actually Texas is now literally rebelling, well, it's Texas, all right, they're big guys. So, what do you expect? Then we can see everything happening in front of our eyes, and I didn't cover 1% of what is happening right now, this very day and yesterday. And this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channels. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And what can I say? Have a nice rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.